You're not a building that needs to be torn down to the foundation and rebuilt again. You're already here, living and breathing. You are a work in progress and a work of art. Okay, you don't rebuild in spite of your story, you rebuild with your story. Welcome to the A.A.C.T podcast, where strategy meets soul and healing after divorce, it gets real. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerhour, the author of the award-winning book, Divorce is Not a Destination, and creator of the A.A.C.T framework, which is the foundation for my professional women's divorce recovery program. So check that out when you get a chance. Today, I am giving you a bonus section, a bonus stage in the loss cycle. So if you've been with me, I have been doing a series on the loss cycle, and these are the stages that we go through when we go through a breakup or a divorce. They're very similar to the stages of the grief cycle when you go through or experience the death of a loved one. And so this is what I'm calling the bonus stage, because it's actually number 8. And I don't see this very often in the stages of the loss cycle, but I talk about in my book where I got this one from. And when I saw this one, it just spoke to me, because this to me is the essence of empowering yourself in terms of the stages of the loss cycle. This is where I believe you're going to get the energy to catapult yourself into this next phase of your life. And I like to call that next phase the joy act of life. So rebuilding is the moment you begin designing a life that fits who you are now and who you're becoming, who you are moving into as all these changes have happened in your life. Again, this is stage number 8, my bonus stage of the loss cycle. And I think when you are dealing with this loss cycle list, rebuilding begins when you stop organizing your life around what you lost and you start making decisions based on what matters to you now. So it's important to say this clearly. Rebuilding, it doesn't mean you're finished with the entire loss cycle. I'm going to say this again. I think I've said it in every one of these episodes on this series. The loss cycle stages don't happen in a linear fashion. They're not going to happen in one particular order. Yours may look very different from somebody else that you know who has also experienced a significant breakup or divorce. And you may go through one or more of the stages of the loss cycle more than one time. I always remind people that when you do, if you're doing the work, when you repeat and when you go through one of those stages, you'll go through it with a different perspective. I call it spiraling up. You may still be going around in a circle, but it's not a flat circle, okay? You may still feel sadness. You may find yourself getting angry again. You may cycle through any of the stages again. But again, it's not a flat circle, it's spiraling up. And that different perspective from up here, you may see some of the same things. So anger may look a lot different 3 months later, 7 months later, 9 months later. You're going to process the anger differently, and you're going to deal with the anger differently, okay? You're no longer just trying to survive the loss. You're learning how to live beyond it. So rebuilding, like I said, can be very empowering. It comes with, it's like empowering behavior is built into rebuilding. This is the stage where you take responsibility for your future without blaming yourself for your past. And this can be difficult for some people, because sometimes people seem to be programmed to want to point out that you could have done something different. Well, you could have been better. Well, it was your fault too. And the reality is, if you've gotten to the rebuilding stage, you've already gone through all that and processed it for yourself. And so they don't understand that it's not that you're in denial or don't want to hear it or can't deal with the truth. It's just that they're coming to you with something that you've already been through. It's a revelation for them. It's already been a reality for you that you've moved through, because you have stopped asking why things happened the way they did. And you are now asking, how do I want to live from here? Okay? So rebuilding shows up in small, practical ways. You make choices without checking them against the old relationship. You may notice what drains you, and you stop explaining why you're not going to tolerate it anymore. You notice what and who supports you, and you also allow yourself to choose, right? your energy is going to shift. So you're going to put less effort into managing your past, and more attention is going to be given to shaping what's coming next. This isn't about becoming somebody new. I know we say things like, oh, it's the new you, and I heard someone say they don't believe in the rebuilding, they want a new you. This is about returning to yourself with more information. Like, at this age, I'm not going to be a new me. I'm not going to get a whole new me. It's the me that I had, but it's the me with different information. And it's me understanding how to use different tools, so I can apply the information so that I'm showing up differently. I'm behaving different. I'm thinking differently. It's the version of you who rebuilds. She understands the patterns. The version of you who rebuilds understands her patterns. She knows her needs. She has clarity about what no longer works for her. Because of that, you're built differently. Okay? If acceptance was about telling the truth, then rebuilding, this is about acting on it. This is where you can start experimenting.
You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes, but after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but.
I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me, and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce.
It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next, and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today.
I love the idea of experimenting, but you do it thoughtfully. You can adjust your routines. You can reconsider priorities. And this can be a challenge. I want to say this here. Sometimes when we start adjusting our priorities, there's this sense of guilt that happens. And from the outside, people may try to shame us because it's like, oh, but you've always done this, or I can't believe that's not important to you anymore. Look, your priorities may change because your life has changed. It's not that, I'll use kids as an example, and I'm taking this, I don't have children, but I'm taking this from someone who did have children. And they said, it's not that I don't love my kids anymore. It's just that my kids are older and I have to be a priority in my life. My kids are still going to be there. I'm always going to love them, but my kids are out of the house and on their own now. And so I get to be the number one priority in my life. And that's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, especially for a lot of women, there's an amount of guilt that people seem to want them to feel when they say things like that. Oh, your kids should always be the most important thing in your life. They can be important, but they don't have to be the most important thing in your life. That could be you. When your kid is 5, maybe. Okay? So even those kinds of priorities can change. You can still love your family and trust that you have now a family full of adults who have to take some of the responsibility on themselves for making themselves the priority. You don't have to make everybody else in the house a priority over you. You get to design your days with intention, not just habit, because some of the habits, even traditions, aren't really fitting you anymore. So sometimes rebuilding looks ordinary. Reorganizing your space so that it reflects who you are today. Changing how you spend your morning. Saying no without having to defend it. Okay? And saying yes without fear or anxiety. Now, if you're wondering whether you're in this rebuilding stage, ask yourself this. Am I making choices based on alignment rather than me having anxiety around something? Am I imagining a future that feels possible, even if it's still unclear? Am I taking ownership of my life without needing to rewrite the past? And if the answer is even a very quiet yes, then you're probably rebuilding. Rebuilding doesn't erase what you've been through. It actually integrates it. That's why I don't have a problem with the term rebuilding, because you want to integrate. You're not a building that needs to be torn down to the foundation and rebuilt again. You're already here, living and breathing. You are a work in progress and a work of art. Okay, you don't rebuild in spite of your story. You rebuild with your story. Okay, this is where confidence starts to return. Not something that has to be loud and vocal. It can be grounded and kind. And it can be the kind of confidence that says, I trust myself to navigate whatever comes next. And I don't absolutely have to know what's coming next. Rebuilding isn't the end of the loss cycle. It's the beginning of intentional living for you. So after it, or even through it, whatever stage of the cycle you're in, this can be the beginning of you being very intentional about moving through that stage. So like I said, not a flat circle, a spiral up. And so if you go through bargaining again, or you go through a little bit of depression again, you now can be intentional because you know, I'm dealing with this from a rebuilding mindset. And so what does this need to look like? What do I need to do to move through this depression and continue on my rebuilding path? If you want support as you design whatever is coming up for you, if you want some support or an exercise, something that you can use as you're designing whatever is coming up next for you, I want to invite you to go to my website, divorceisnotadestination.com. Go to my resources, and there are resources for a lot of the things that I mention in my book. And yeah, I might as well say it. If you haven't gotten my book, why? Get my book. Order my book. Divorce is Not a Destination. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. Quick little commercial in here. But I want to leave you with this. Acceptance says, and we went through acceptance in the episode right before this. Acceptance says, I see it. I see what's been going on in my life. I can look at my past and not feel like I need to rewrite it. I can be honest with myself about what happened. I can accept the feelings that may come up around it. And I'm okay with it. Like I'm dealing with it. I'm ready to accept and embrace the fact that this is all part of my life. That is acceptance. Rebuilding says, I'm no longer stuck in that story. And I got this from Lisa Nichols. It's one of my favorite quotes. She said something like, you want to be able to stand on your story and not still be stuck in it. And I believe when you can stand on your story and not be stuck in it, you're able to use your story to benefit and bless other people. But the first person that benefits and gets blessed by it is you, right? And one of the ways that you can tell that you're no longer stuck in your story is you don't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. The past, you can reference it, you can acknowledge that it happened, you can tell certain things, and you don't have that difficult, dreadful emotion attached to it. And you can look back on it and you can learn from it and you can teach from it if you need to. Rebuilding says, I'm no longer stuck in my story. I can stand on my story and build or rebuild from right here. I know, that's a good one. I always try to credit Lisa Nichols with giving me that, even though I add to it and have adapted it. But love that one. So look, this has been a joy for me to get through the loss cycle and be able to have this kind of repository for you here on with my podcast, so that you can go back and listen to whichever ones you need to, share them with anybody that you think is going to benefit from understanding that this cycle is a part of a breakup or a divorce. If you are in one of these stages, you are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. This is normal, right? And so I hope this has been a benefit to you. And if it has, please subscribe to my channel, share it with somebody else who might get blessed from hearing it. And as I always say, divorce is not a destination. Nobody walked down the aisle planning for their divorce. Your life is so much bigger, so much brighter, and more meaningful than any one experience. Be good to yourself. I'll see you next time.